One thing I wanted to point out, and I want to hear from you too, darling, but one thing that I wanted to point out was that, he made that comment. He says, I have no family, you know, and that struck out to me because we hear a lot in the Black Manosphere about women dying alone, and here's a Black man who I think is relatable to a lot of other Black men, not just Black men, but just men in general, who feel alone, for one reason or the other. And, and this is no excuse for his behavior. But I think the focus in the social media groups, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, even, has been 15 women or upgrading men. And there's a lot of friction, and we're fighting, and we're pointing the finger, and we're not fighting what needs to be fought. Like, we're not fighting for each other, we're fighting each other. And this man is a man that felt alone for one reason or the other, and it's like we let these things fester until they become Facebook News and CNN News, or ABC News. And I just wanted to point that out. Like, that statement, among several other statements he said, really stuck out to me. Um, and it just angered me that the response from a lot of other YouTubers were, well, women need to learn a lesson about this. Women need to stop playing with men's emotions. Women need to stop keeping their kids from these men. And granted, if these women were unfairly trying to keep these children from him, they were downright wrong. If there wasn't a safety, and it sounded like there was a safety concern, because let's be honest, like, if I'm a mom, I'm not a mom. And maybe this is unfair, but I'm picturing myself in this situation. If I'm a mom and I'm no longer dating the child's father, and he's threatening me, I'm not going to feel, even if he treats my child like wonderfully, I'm not necessarily going to feel comfortable with my child being with them. And I don't, maybe that's unfair, but it seems sensible to me, like,
That's not
for
unfair.
so many
If
reasons.
there's
So it's like,
domestic violence, that is not unfair.
so, we don't know the whole issues with the custody battle. If he was the victim in that, they were dead wrong, right? And but it hurts me that that is what became the focus of Black Manosphere. Oh, look at what women are doing to men. It's like, no, look at what people are doing to people, and look at what we're doing and going through and having to do it by ourselves. And look at what we're sweeping under the rug and treating as normal, when we need to be treating it, like Jovo said, as trauma, and dealing with the things that are deep in our heart, the feeling alone, the loss of a job, the demotion, whatever he was going through, could have been addressed so much differently. And with the ownership of him, but also with the support of people who love him. So it's just a sad, sad situation. Darn, do you want to add to that?
Um, yeah, it's unfortunate what happened, and I just want to just touch on another perspective of it, and but it has to do with control, right? Um, I think everybody loses control at some point in their life. Whether now how they act when they lose their control is totally different for each person. Some people might start smoking cigarettes. Some people might eat excessively. Some people might sleep all day. Some people might take things out on their loved ones. Some people might get violent. Some people might start cursing. It's different ways that people lose control. And unfortunately, one of the way that he lost control was or this horrific act. And I think it's just as simple as that. Like, people need to start managing their control. And I think everybody, even if they don't need mental help, they need mental conditioning from time to time. Like, they just need to touch on and just go over what their life is looking like at some point and sit down and ask themselves like, am I okay? And people around, I know it's in this world, people don't want to get too involved with everybody's business, but I think we need to start just, if you're seeing somebody that's looking down and depressed, just ask them what's wrong. Can I help? You know, and especially friends and family. And it's not about I don't want to pry in their business. It's about, hey, I want to be safe too. Like if you got friends and family that you think that's capable of doing these things, you might want to check in on them, you know, because you might be a victim of their horrific act. You don't know what they're capable of. They might be at a family reunion and just start shooting up the place. You never know until something happens to you, and then you looking like, oh, that person's just crazy, but you saw it coming. And so I just think it's unfortunate, you know. My wife is big on that. She don't care who it is. She addressing everything, you know, family members, friends. She do not care what's going on and who it is. She's, you know, and I commend her for that, because she steps in, does the right thing no matter who it is, you know, and that's what we all need to do. It doesn't matter if it's a friend, your father, your child. You have to step in and address these things before something bad happens. And I don't know if he had friends or family. I don't know what he displayed to those people or whatever the case may be, but it's just unfortunate that he lost control, and by him losing control, took him there. And you know, my condolences to the family, those kids, and you know, so that's just my thought on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. The thing is, I just want to add, and it's the last thing I'm gonna put to it because I'm just over it. But the last thing that I want to add is that at the end of the day, I've seen abusive people. Specifically, I've seen abusive men in action. Out of every single abusive man that I have ever personally witnessed, known in my entire life, one common thread exists between all of them. None of them take accountability for what they do. It's always an excuse. They downplay it. It's always an excuse. It's always a reason. It's always the other person's fault. And it's all of those other things. And I think that that's kind of part of the problem where, like I said, we view some of those things as a loss of control. But if you look at that video, that man wasn't out of control. He was totally in control on what he was about to do. The shooting between his ex-wife and his girlfriend was an hour. His children was 4 and 5 years old. He drove in his car with his 4 and 5-year-old children strapped in car seats, I'm sure, in his car for an hour, just to then took the time to sit there and calmly record a video trying to give himself cover or make himself a victim, right? Because like he said, he knew he was finna take himself out, so he wanted to have the last say on how he was going to be viewed and what that was going to look like. And then he went and made good on the threats that he had already been making. Like I say, all of that is classic case of an abusive person. All of it. And the problem is that, like I say, we downplay it in the community. We ignore it. We make excuses for it. You know, like that is, none of this stuff is new. This is textbook stuff of how we frame domestic violence against women. What did you do? What's the first thing people say to a woman that's been beat on or abused? Well, what did you do? Did you make him mad? Why you do? Well, just try this and try it. We always do that. So I'm just looking at it, and none of this stuff that we're doing, it may take on a slightly different little form, but we still doing the same thing. And we keep talking about we need to end it. We're not going to end it until, like I say, we look at it and we call a spade, and we start addressing those things up front. And like even to Darwin's point, what he said about, he said, you know, if you think somebody can't, the problem is nobody thinks anybody's capable of that. Nobody thinks that. They see all of those red flags and they ignore it. Oh, they're not really finna do that. Oh, you know what? Because like I said, a lot of those times, those people are calm, cool, and collected. Those people have two faces a lot of times. Oh, well, that must have not really been that bad. No, that couldn't have really been this. That's what happens. Most people are not out here just like, ooh, my brother violent. He be beating on people. Like, people don't do that, but for the most part. So that's what we need to address. We need to, like I say, when we need to address a lot of those behaviors, and we need to call them out for what they are. We need to stop downplaying it. We need to stop making excuses for it. We need to stop giving cover to it. That's what we need to stop doing. Because at the end of the day, like I said, when I saw that video and I saw that man talking, I've seen that. I've seen that many times. And it was down to a loss of control. But it wasn't a loss of emotional control. It was a loss of control over another person. And then trying to exert that control in any way you possibly can.